Hello, this is Nick, the Dark Yogi, and welcome to Kisma and the Dark Yogi, brought to you by SourceMovement.com. We're here for people who want to be radically authentic and courageously vulnerable. So whether you're a yoga teacher, an entrepreneur, or a leader building a tribe, we're here to get your energy and your mindset positioned for success. No more stress, no more lack of energy. It's time to lead with your full potential. Our intention is to leave the world a better place than we found it and inspire you to do the same. So hey, if this message in our podcast resonates with you, and you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to Kisma and the Dark Yogi on iTunes. While you're there, give us a rating, let us know what you think, and if you have somebody in your life that would enjoy this conversation, please go ahead and share it with them as well. If you want more information about the movement, all you have to do is go to SourceMovement.com. But for now, let's get the show started. I hope you enjoy this episode of Kisma and the Dark Yogi.
Hey, welcome. This is Kisma, and we're here with episode 0 of Kisma and the Dark Yogi. And we just wanted to give you an overview of what you can expect from us during these podcasts. And I know that I'm super, super excited to get this thing rolling and be able to serve you in the highest and definitely make the world a better place. So I'm here with Nick, who happens to be the Dark Yogi. Now, he's not really that dark, but we'll talk about that in another podcast. But for the time...
At least make me sound kind of cool.
Oh, he's totally cool.
Okay, thank you.
Totally cool.
That
Nick
was
is
it.
Totally cool. Okay, yeah, the dark thing, he thinks it makes him cool, but yeah, it kind of does. But, you know, Nick and I came together and developed Source Movement, which is about helping, whether it's yoga teachers or leaders of tribes, to really lead from their full potential. And this came about after many, many trips to India, running our own businesses, brick and mortar, and then online business. And here we are in the podcast world and super excited to be here. So, Nick, can you just share with us, you know, how we've developed Source Movement and really, really what it stands for?
Well, I think when we look at Source Movement, it's a big question. Well, let's start at the beginning, like really what inspired this and where we came from. You know, both of us having been trained as professional musicians and orchestral musicians, you know, I think I can speak for both of us and say that really the reason that we came to yoga to begin with was to manage stress, to have a greater sense of focus, and me personally to have a greater sense of confidence. Like that's what got me into yoga, and that was really the moment for me that I started to take a really deep interest in human transformation. And from there, it was just, you know, kind of one thing leads to another. And before you know it, you know, Kisma's moving back from Hong Kong and opening a yoga studio, which I just thought was insane. And and here I am coming in to teach, and then we formed this partnership. And from there, you know, started, you know, teaching yoga and building a yoga community around it, which was really successful. And we thought that was really cool. But I think that something that really differentiated what we did in the yoga world was just this really clear emphasis on the transformative aspects of yoga as related to the modern world.
I love that, you know, and I'll just jump back a bit. That's right. We're both classical musicians. Nick also plays some jazz. But when I started yoga in Hong Kong, I have to say my first yoga class was like, get me the hell out of here.
Mine was just like
right.
that
It's
too.
like, what do you mean you want me to stand on my head? I mean, I had been in good shape. So I thought I was running, I was swimming. And then a friend said, come to this yoga class. And one of the Indian quote unquote master teachers was like, okay, let's sit cross-legged, everyone. And he saw my knees, which were facing more of the ceiling than down towards the floor. And I could tell that he was frightened. Like, what am I going to do with this girl? But something shifted immediately. And it really had less to do about the body, although I was very sore. And over time, my practice opened up and I became much more fit. But it was the mind. And as classical musicians, we had to step into that high performance mindset. And I found that yoga was like this hack for being focused, for being present on stage, and releasing stress and nerves. So I don't know about you, Nick, but that was the hook for me. It was like, wow, something really, really shifted.
Yeah, it really shifted for me too. I mean, my first experience was the teacher was great, but it was horrifying for me because like for the very first time I had really looked at what had become of my body, and it was just, for a mid-20 something guy, it was just like the way that I moved and my level of comfort just in my own skin was like so minimal, that I was really, I was like, wow, I'm not going back in that studio, so I learned, the whole primary series, Ashtanga primary series from a VHS, and before I was good enough to go back in the yoga studio. But now that being said, it was something that I was like, it was kind of like my little secret in the music world of like, I was really getting into yoga, and it was really helping me perform better. It was helping me to play my trumpet better, like just biomechanically, like how I held my body to resonate the instrument helped me. And certainly the mental focus and the confidence that I got from that was like beyond anything. So that was like my dirty little secret, is like I'm super into personal growth and yoga, and I would never talk about it. I would just do my VHS. So.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think that we both would most likely agree, as much as we love the physical practice, we love going upside down, we love doing twisted poses, the whole thing. The real piece that elevated us in terms of personal growth, if you will, was the philosophy. I remember our trips to India, specifically visiting the Vedanta Academy and learning from Swami Parthasarathy, is that we started to see people from all over the world take in these ancient teachings and put them into their modern day lives. We're not talking really the physical practice, but it was the philosophy to help them be more successful in their businesses or be more connected with their families. So I venture to say for both of us, we feel like the real golden gem of yoga is that, in fact, it actually is the science of human transformation.
Yeah, it really is. And I think a lot of times in our modern world, yoga has become so much about the physical piece, right? And it's so emphasized, which is really important because we do, by the way, have a bit of a health crisis going on. So yoga is an amazing technology for that. But at the end of the day, there's so many layers beyond the physical that this is really about. And it's those subtle layers that start to shift a human being. And that's, to me, that was the biggest draw. Like, I wanted that. I want to know about that. And you can probably speak to this as well, but it was really that piece, that so deeply influenced not only the way that I perform music, but also the way that I teach yoga, the way that I express myself in the classroom, the way that I connect with people. And when we sold the studio and went to open source movement, startsourcemovement.com, basically, we were training teachers, we're training yoga teachers. And I don't know what I thought it would be to train teachers, but at the end of the day, I just thought it'd be much more about teaching yoga. But I found that that really wasn't the problem. That the nuts and bolts is not that hard to teach yoga. What's really challenging for people is to show up in their full potential. And I think that became the thing that we really teach yoga teachers.
Right. Because we did, as we taught yoga teachers, it was about how do you hold the space for what's possible for your students? How do you have a transformational presence when you walk in the room? And interestingly enough, our consulting, if you call it that, went quickly to businesses, to entrepreneurs, to going on site in businesses and doing awakened leadership trainings, because this is what's needed. So and we've had students that are lawyers and physicians, and we talk about the same thing. We have clients who are physicians, and we talk about the same thing. And this is really about the full potential state of where we can be as human beings on this planet at this time.
Yeah. I mean, remember that first, the first corporate client was, they came in through a yoga class, and we were talking about, some kind of consulting and things like that. And really what it came down to is it was like, hey, I want this philosophy for my people. Like, how can you teach this for my people?
Right. And who were his people?
Insurance agents.
Amazing. And what happened to those insurance agents.
Yeah, it really affected how they operate in their lives and their business, and really what it allowed them to do is step up in a role of leadership in their own lives in a much more powerful way.
Right. And let me just add this, because the words personal growth and transformation, empowerment are so broad, and they're all over the place. They're being tweeted probably as we speak and on Facebook. But what we're talking about, to get to the seed of it, is objectivity, and it's being able to look at the world, be in the world, act in the world without being entangled in the world. And this is a very, very precious place to come from as a human being, because then we have the ability to not use something like spiritual escapism to numb ourselves and get away and go meditate in a cave. But we have the ability to step into the world, do what we need to do, but have peace as we do it. So basically, we're talking about peace in action.
Peace in action. It's karma yoga.
Karma yoga.
At the end of the day.
Peace in action, having the ability to be self-sufficient in the world. And what I mean by that is to grow your business, have immense success, have what you want, make the money you want to have the cars you want to have, the houses you want to have, the relationships you want to have. But here's the thing, knowing that you would be okay without all of that as much as you are with it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think a lot of people who have found us along the way they've got a lot of that going. They've got a great family. They've got a great job, or a great company, and they just have that, like, they keep coming back to that vague feeling of, man, like, there's something more. Like, there's something more. There's something more. And I don't know. For me, there's always been that something inside of me too. Of, what is it? There's something out there. When I found yoga, it opened up a door to that really began a snowball effect of the next thing and the next thing, and really starting to find what it is to live from a full potential state.
Totally. Yeah. I love it. And so let me ask you this, Dark Yogi, what can our listeners expect to hear on Kisma and the Dark Yogi podcast?
Well, if they go back if they go forward in the archives and you look, maybe at the first 10 episodes, you're going to see a lot of more yoga-centric type of stuff. When we went back through recordings and things that we had done with our tribe of yoga teachers, we found a lot of a really amazing content that was so relevant, but broad enough to apply to anybody. But it will be a little bit more yoga teaching-centric. But as we move forward and really continue with this, we fully expect this conversation to evolve in a really wonderful way. Honestly speaking, I don't know exactly where it's leading. That kind of takes the fun out of it for me.
Kind of exciting.
But I do know that it's going to be super exciting. We're going to have some great guests on from all walks, like not just from the yoga community, but from all kinds of interesting people, business owners, business leaders, personal growth leaders, teachers, spiritual gurus, all of that kind of stuff. And to let this conversation around spirituality and how it relates to people's everyday lives, like how to really live that, how to live devotion, how to live powerful action, and to bring that into your everyday life. I think that's the biggest thing.
Totally. I love it. And here's the thing. I firmly believe that people are ready for the conversation of whether it's spirituality in business or expanded consciousness in business. I know that we call it activating the awakened leader, but very, very successful people are realizing it's more than just making money and having things. And it's very exciting to me that whether someone is internet marketer or a professional that goes to work 9 to 5 or a yoga teacher, that conversation is ready to be heard.
Yeah, it's absolutely ready to be heard, and we're not the first ones out there. We're not the first ones out there with this. It's been out there, but what I think what's missing in the voice is a bridge from the yoga community that really makes this super relevant in everyday life, and 2 is modern day technology to go with this, like actual like energetic hacks, clearing processes, things like that really just work in a natural way that anybody can use and anybody can understand. For me as a yoga teacher, that was always my mission was to make sure that whatever we were doing was not something separate, that it wasn't just some, blissed out cave that we were going to, that it was really about making sure that we always had something to bring back into our everyday, to practice and to create a living practice.
Totally. And let me just touch on a couple of things. Source Movement has a few isms, and one of them that we developed is called radical authenticity. We've got a little hashtag going with that one. Dark Yogi, what does that mean to you?
Radical authenticity. I remember I was sitting on our couch that one morning, and it just popped into my head. It was, one of my inspired moments, so to speak, and it was just willingness to be so radically you, just so clearly you, and just show up as that.
And that would mean leaving the fear of what others think out of the picture, which is a really liberating place to be. And we know from the conversations we've had with thousands of people across many different industries, this is kind of the number one thing people have, is a fear of what others will think.
Well, all of the isms have to do with that. But at the end of the day, radical authenticity is so much about, like, there's so many messages out there trying to tell us who to be and what to be and how we're supposed to be, and we're supposed to have this and that and the other thing. And that's where you find, like, so many people, in the rat race, on the hamster wheel, so to speak, basically just doing everything that they can to build the life that they think they're supposed to have and be the way that they think they're supposed to be. And it's so freaking disillusioning at the end of the day.
Right.
So radical authenticity is like, hey, here I am, for better or for worse, perfect or imperfect, depending on how you look at it. Here I am, and just being willing to make a stand for your highest and for your best, and to show up as you are.
Yeah, and isn't the imperfection of a human just what makes us all so freaking perfect?
Yeah, it's all perspective. It depends on how you look at it.
Right. And in another ism, which sounds like we need this to have the radical authenticity, is courageous vulnerability.
This was definitely inspired by Brené Brown. I love her work.
Love Brené.
But courageous vulnerability is just that. It takes so much courage to really be seen. And so, if radical authenticity is the willingness to do that, courageous vulnerability is the means to say, hey, I know that I'm not for everybody. And if I try to be, I'm just going to wind up being a milquetoast version of myself anyway.
Right.
And that sucks for everybody.
Totally.
But it's the courage to make that stand, to be who I am, and to really share from my heart who I am as a person, to share my doubts, my fears, and things like that. Because otherwise it just all gets so, twisted up inside.
It's when we don't have that courageous vulnerability to be ourselves or to be radically authentic, it's a fragmentation of our soul. We don't have the depth of our life. We don't have that true inner guide to our true north. And you're right. We end up being lukewarm, milquetoast, vanilla, and not leading a very exciting life.
No, you'll never really... that's, to me, like, those are two that really lead to the just feeling like something's off kind of thing. Like when something's off in that, when you're not willing to be yourself, or you're too scared, to really share from your heart who you are, then that over time you wind up with that feeling of just like, man, like something's missing. I just feel disconnected from myself. I feel disconnected from my life. I want something more, but I don't know even really what that is. I just want more of something. Right.
I love it. One more ism, and this one is, this is a big one, ruthless honesty. And what comes to mind, I know we've had so many discussions around this, but the ruthless honesty for me is really about being honest with myself.
Well, if the dark yogis had an ism that was just for him, it would definitely be this one.
Okay.
Right? But I totally agree. Ruthless honesty to me is the core of a spiritual practice. You cannot have a substantial spiritual practice without ruthless honesty. And it's that willingness to ask hard questions and to face the truth. And sometimes the truth is that we are not who we think we are. Well, often that's the truth.
Often it is.
We aren't really who we think we are, and we're not being who we say we want to be.
Right.
And a lot of times, actions, when you don't have the results you want in your life, your actions are out of integrity. Because if your actions were in integrity with what you said that you wanted, you would have it.
Karma.
Right? So it has, there's a ruthless honesty part that just says, I will be ruthlessly honest with myself. It doesn't mean that you have to be a jerk about it, mean, but it does need to be that you must be diligent and you must be vigilant with the truth and really being honest.
It's like we have to be extremely present to the present moment and have that observation about ourselves so that we can see where we might be out of integrity, where we're stopping, where we need to ask for help, and just where we can freaking move forward to create a really magnificent life and have that radical authenticity.
Yeah. I mean, the three are create a synergy of themselves, the radical authenticity, courageous vulnerability, and the ruthless honesty to keep moving us closer and closer towards the ultimate, toward whatever that may be to you. And we're not here to tell you what that should be for you. If anything, what Source Movement really stands for is exploring that for yourself and deciding for yourself.
Absolutely.
This is your journey.
Yeah. And, just if there's one thing that I know we'd both love to highlight before we leave is just that inquiry, always asking, is this true? And is this for me? And does it resonate with me? Because I know that there's a big difference between a spiritual practice and the dogma of religion. This is anything certainly we share or our guests share on this show is for you to take in and question like crazy, because that inquiry is what really allows us to expand our inner awakening, so to speak, and know where our truth lies and how we can carve that path towards it.
I think at the end of the day, that's really the biggest thing. That whatever you take away from this show is please take it and make it your own. We're not here to tell you what to think. We'll definitely share our views on things, but at the end of the day, it's really about asking your questions. And that's the piece. It's not even about getting the answer.
Yeah.
I don't care what the answer is. If we can just ask the question, really turn that question around in our own minds, we can develop the human intellect in a way that it hasn't been developed.
Right.
And that is so important. One of the things that's really challenging a lot of people these days is that they haven't asked the right questions. They haven't really chewed on the information because the human intellect just hasn't been developed.
Love it. Yeah. And we're going to be talking a lot about the human intellect. We're going to be talking about emotions and how they can take us into places in our life that we might not want to be. All of that and more in episodes to come of Kisma and the Dark Yogi. So check out sourcemovement.com and go ahead and just, what's that thing they're supposed to do? Subscribe.
So there's 3 things that you can do. Yeah, subscribe is one of them. Go check out Kisma and the Dark Yogi on iTunes if you enjoy this. Subscribe. Keep in touch. We'll keep you updated on when the new episodes are released. Secondly would be to rate us. Let us know what you think. Give us a rating. And third would be to go ahead and share it. If you think this conversation is going to resonate with somebody, definitely share it. Source Movement is up to all kinds of neat new things. We're both creative people, sometimes to a detriment, I would say. But so there's always something new and cool going on at Source Movement. So all you have to do is go to sourcemovement.com and check us out there, or visit our Facebook page, and you'll find all kinds of fun things.
Awesome. And until the next time, have a really awesome day and a very heartfelt namaste.
Namaste.